So welcome today to our State of the District address. I want to take a moment to introduce our board members. We have with us this evening our board president, Mrs. Cheryl Watson. Our board vice president, Mrs. Carol Modell. Our school board secretary, Mrs. Melody Hines. Trustee, Dr. Weaver. And our board treasurer, Mr. Tom Buckaloo. So we thank you for coming this evening to hear a little bit more about what it is that we're working on here in Wayne Westland. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Wayne Westland Community Schools is a school district right here in the city of Westland. We encompass Westland, Wayne. We also have parts of Canton, Romulus, and Inkster here in our district. We have to also understand that our schools sit in a context. They sit in an international context, they sit in a national context, they sit in a state, they sit in a region, we sit in a county, and a city. And so I want to point out that our schools do not operate in and of themselves. They operate within a greater landscape. In April of 1983, the U.S. Department of Education put out a study called The Nation at Risk. And I'll allow you to read this, as I'll read it aloud to you. All, regardless of race or class or economic status, are entitled to a fair chance and to the tools for developing their individual powers of mind and spirit to the utmost. This promise means that all children, by virtue of their own efforts, competently guided, can hope to attain the mature and informed judgment needed to secure gainful employment and to manage their own lives, thereby serving not only their own interest, but also the progress of society itself. The first line of that document says, "Our nation is at risk." Once again, this was 1983. And so as we look at what our schools are doing today within our nation has been at risk for some time. And so this took a while before, notice it was 1983, so it took a while before this message made its way into Wayne Westland. As we look at our data, and I'm going to point out to you quite a few things. I'm going to look at the data real quick, and then we're going to start talking about what it is that we're going to do about it. So one of the things that I asked when I first came here as superintendent, after about a month here, I noticed that somewhat of a common theme, and so it caused me to ask the question, and this is our essential question. What do we, as a community, do when people struggle? How do we respond? If things aren't going the way that we want them to go, if our kids aren't learning the way that we want them to learn, how do we respond? How do we talk about it? Do we get on Facebook, or do we get involved? Do we criticize, or do we come and collaborate? Those are questions that we as a community have to really think deeply about. What do we do when people struggle? What do we do when we struggle? And even more importantly, how would we want to be treated if we were struggling? This is a table that I gave to the Board of Education at a board meeting in November of 2017. And what it does is it starts to outline how we are doing from the last 3 years. So this was, I believe, 2015, 2016, and 2017. And it was the first time in being here as superintendent that I had to share what the data looked like across the board. And what we noticed was we've been on a downward trend. We've been on a downward trend for a few years. And so again, I asked the question, what do we do when we struggle? This is our proficiency versus growth in ELA for this past school year. And this is our district compared to our other local districts. And you see right there is Wayne Westland. This chart compares growth with proficiency. And so we want to ensure that our kids are not only growing in their knowledge of math and English, but we also want to ensure they're proficient, meaning they're at the level that we expect them to be. And know on these charts that we are going to grow before we become proficient. So you want to go up the chart, and then we'll move over on the chart. So this particular one shows English language arts. And you can see the various schools here in the Wayne County area. So it's all of the schools in Wayne County. And that circle is Wayne Westland. Here's mathematics. And this is proficiency versus growth. And I can give these out to folks so you can see it a little bit better. But you can see how our district is doing compared to all of the other districts in the area. This is regarding economically disadvantaged, which speaks to our free and reduced lunch rate. And so when we compare ourselves to other districts and where their free and reduced lunch rate is compared to proficiency, we can tell we have some work to do. That's ELA, and that's mathematics. So the first thing we have to do when we notice that there is a struggle is we have to be honest with ourselves about what exactly is the struggle. And so the first thing in looking at the data, we had to go, wait a minute. So if this is what the data looks like, numbers aren't everything. We also have to get behind the numbers to look at what's happening in the context of with the people that we have. In February of 2017, we also had the Hewlings report that was shared. This was a report that I requested because it had to do with the climate and culture here in Wayne Westland. We wanted to find out from an outside source what exactly is going on. And what we noticed once we got into the Hewlings report is there were three main factors that were challenging us as a community. One had to do with the student behavior. I heard it everywhere I went. When I hear student behavior, I interpret that, it kind of funnels through my brain, and I hear climate and culture. And climate and culture is an area that we didn't have quite as widespread an expertise, and the solutions that we had in place were actually causing us more harm than good. And we realized, hey, we want to try and do things a little bit differently. Staff attrition has been a challenge. There are two things that I can control at different times. One is wages, that we do through negotiations because we are a unionized district and we have bargaining units. The other is working conditions. What I noticed when we got into the staff attrition bubble there is that we had people who had been here a very, very long time. And we wanted to find ways to invest in those who had already invested in Wayne Westland. Who is it that had actually stayed for extended periods of time? And what we noticed was that our secretarial group had the largest longevity of any group here in Wayne Westland. That was an area where I went, maybe there's some growth or something that we can capitalize on here. The last thing was the change process. In the details of this change process, it focused on communication, transparency, and building a collective sense of urgency. What we noticed is that, the best analogy I can give you is a child that has a splinter. As soon as a child gets a splinter, they come to you and they say, I want the splinter out. But then as soon as you go get that needle and the matches, they go, wait a minute, I don't want you to do that. And you go, okay, well, let me get some alcohol. No, I don't want you to do that. Okay, well, let me get the clippers. No, I don't want you to do that. So at the end of the day, you want the splinter out, but you don't want any pain. What are we going to do? What would you tell your child? You're going to have to suffer through one of these in order to get the splinter out. So ultimately, we need to get the splinter out here in Wayne Westland. Here's our theory of action. So after all of this data and we looked at the numbers, we really wanted to delve deeper into what is happening with our folks. And so we called a team together that had administrators, teachers, we had some custodial staff. We had a really widespread group to come together last year and help us develop what is going to be our theory of action. And what we noticed is there are three main areas that we really want to focus on. One was building a culture of excellence. Culture of excellence has to do with the processes, systems, and ultimately being able to build trust and respect through processes, systems, and procedures. Ultimately, it has to do with predictability. We want to be able to predict, okay, if I want to do this, what is the system or the process that I need to do to get that done? If I need help, where do I go? And how do I get it? And how am I not in trouble, for lack of a better term, because I really do need help. And in a culture of respect and trust, we can do that. If we don't have a culture of respect and trust, folks will tend, it's just human nature, to back away and mask whatever issues. Oh, okay, it's okay, I got it. And really they don't. We want to create a culture where folks can say, you know what, I'm a little confused on this, or I'm not sure how to do this, and it's okay. And we're going to walk through that journey with you, side by side. The other piece is a climate of excellence. This had to do with social-emotional learning and with behavior support for all levels of the organization. We want to ensure that when our folks are struggling, if we have challenges, that we have processes and systems and a culture that will help us get there. This really had to do with our social learning, our social emotional competencies, which you saw outside with our climate and culture coaches did an amazing job of really highlighting for all of us. So last year, what Dr. Townsel did is he started to make videos for the community. He said, you know, if we're gonna move this social emotional piece, we've gotta get people to understand what it is. And so those videos, we wanna keep using those so that folks can start to go, oh, okay, this is what self-management means. And this is how I can help my student at home or on the ball field or wherever be able to manage their own emotions. What we found when we looked at the data, especially with our discipline data, because remember the teachers and the staff were saying that student behaviors were an issue. So we started to delve a little bit deeper into student behaviors. And what we noticed is that our kids were not able to manage some of their emotions, especially those that were in traumatic environments or situations. So they may have been okay, but the minute something was stressing them in any way, they would exhibit behaviors that were not appropriate for school. And the other piece of social emotional learning has to do with an old-fashioned code switching. We have to teach our kids to code switch. The things you do at home are not always appropriate at school, and oftentimes, sometimes the things you do at school, we don't ask our kids to come sit at the dinner table and do it. We just don't get that. We have everybody come to the table and get their plates. So some of our kids need to learn that there's environmental appropriateness for asking questions, for making comments, but also in how we behave. And the final one had to do with excellence in learning. This is building up our curriculum development, our instructional strategies, data review, and professional support to ensure student learning and growth through adult learning and growth. One thing we have to know about this is that shifting this trajectory of student achievement, it takes time. Evidence-based research tells us that it takes 3 to 5 years to shift and begin to see the results of those shifts. 3 to 5 years. We are entering year 1. And so if we think of last year as year 0, where we were restructuring, and when I got an interesting call on October 27th, I got a call saying, hey, you're in a partnership agreement. Actually, I was invited to become part of the partnership agreement. It's kind of like, I use the analogy when your mom invites you to take out the trash. It's not an invitation. You better take out that trash. And that's essentially what the state is doing. They're saying, you know what? We want to partner with you. We want you to find another partner, and we want to all work together to figure out how we can move forward. And we actually have some of those partners in the room. And so what we also know, let me back up a little bit. If year 0 was restructuring, we did restructure in central office last year, and we're going to continue that restructuring through this year. This year, we're also focusing on refining and finalizing our policies, procedures, and systems, and building an effective two-way system of communication. Last year, we built mostly one way. We tried to figure out how we could get information out. Because what we noticed with the change process is that we didn't have a way to speak in a global sense to our entire staff or our entire community. So I'd have pockets of people who knew what was going on, and then I had bigger pockets of folks that had no clue what was going on. And we all know what happens if people are left to their own devices. They start to fill in the blanks, as trusted colleagues used to say. Fill in the blanks, or they'll fill them in for themselves. And so we had to find various ways to begin to fill in the blanks. So we have a now weekly communique called This Week in Wayne Westland that we share out as much information and celebrations as we possibly can. In year 2, we are still going to focus on policies, procedures, and then really move into some strategic academic planning. Once we get our ELA curriculum this year, the following year we'll really look at how can we continue that training and implementation to really focus in heavily on our ELA. This year, we're focusing very heavily on math. So we did a math reboot over the summer and really began to see that work begin to flourish. In year 3, we will be able to begin capitalizing on the internal capacity that we're building right now. There is a lot of training happening right now in our district, mostly amongst administrators, because everything starts and stops with leadership. If leadership is able to maneuver what's happening at the school site, then it will start to move forward. Without leadership, folks are left to flounder. So we had to really focus in on leadership. And Mrs. Curry will begin to speak a little bit more about those efforts. You'll hear today about AROI, you'll hear about climate and culture, you'll hear about curriculum adoptions, and you'll also hear a little bit about the work that we're doing with our students around social-emotional learning. At the end of this evening, we're going to have an ask for you. So I'll come back after everyone has spoken, and I'll have an ask. And I have an ask for all of us within the community. And it really has to do with joining us through our collective advocacy action teams and our advisory committees. We need your voice in this. Your voices have to be heard. I noticed last week, and I've got to put this out, wait a minute, and I had the conversation with Don Harris. I said, Don, I'm not hearing the teacher voice as loud as I need to hear it. I need it booming in my head so that I know what it is our teachers need in order to feel that, to experience the growth that we want to see. And so we're talking about different ways that we can make sure that the teacher voice is in the room, that the secretarial voice is in the room, that the custodial voice and the transportation voices, as well as the administrative voices, they're all in the room. And so you'll see that we're going to invite you to our various collective advocacy action teams to allow you to show us that you believe in our school district. So without further ado, I'm going to transfer this over to our team. What we also notice is that, you know what, many folks know who I am, or they're starting to get to know who I am, but some folks didn't know who all these other people were. And so this evening, you will hear from the leaders of each of my executive cabinet. So without further ado, I'm going to bring to you a 20-year veteran. She has been in Wayne Westland for over 20 years. She was a teacher. She was an elementary principal. And now she is the assistant superintendent of standards, learning, and innovation. Please give a rousing round of applause for Mrs. Jennifer Curry.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Holt. Hi and welcome. My name is Jennifer Curry and I am the Assistant Superintendent to Standards, Learning, and Innovations. I started this position back in January, and the very first thing we did as a team is put our heads together and say, okay, what is our 5-year plan? Where do we want to go? What are our goals? And we actually had to put the brakes on for a minute because we thought, well, let's stop and think about that. What's our purpose? What are our beliefs? What do we believe about adult learning? What do we believe about student learning? And it all came down to excellence. We wanted excellence in learning. And Dr. Holt spoke to that as well and connected right to our theory of action. We want excellence. Well, our content leaders and our teachers helped us already achieve part of that excellence this past summer. They worked for hours upon hours and days to create our kindergarten through 8th grade scope and sequence documents. These teachers, this team was fabulous. Teachers now in August were given a curriculum guide that gave their scope and sequence for the entire school year with the resources that we had and told them what to teach and when with our district resources. We're going to be working on the 9th through 12th grade this coming school year, but it is just powerful tool. Within that curriculum guide, they built in our 5D instructional framework, which guides what we teach. It's when you think of your highly functioning classroom, it has all those characteristics in our 5 dimensions and our instructional framework. And we also, just last week, we put an all-call in this week in Wayne Westland so that we can start our kindergarten through 5th grade ELA curriculum adoption committee. We need your help. We need our teachers. We need all the best brains in the room to adopt the best resources for our kids. Our leadership framework is really in 3 parts. We have 5D, 4D, and 3D. 5D is our instructional framework, think teachers. 4D is our principles. And 3D is how we support our principals. Within our frameworks, the 5, the 4, the 3, I'm going to refer them to, we purposely built in supports for them within our leadership model. We have instructional coaches in every single building. Some have 2 to help support our teachers to work around that 5-dimension framework that we spoke of. We have 3 executive directors who are also principal coaches. They help principals with just day-to-day activities, from school improvement planning, you name it, they are there to help. Our instructional coaches also get weekly professional development, and then they share that knowledge with their teams at their school. Together, central office, principals, and soon instructional coaches will do this as well. We participate in what's called instructional rounds. Think of the medical field. You go, we visit classrooms, we analyze the instruction, so we're all collaborating and getting on the same page of what does good instruction look like, and how can we help people grow, students and adults. Communication methods, and I know Dr. Holt spoke of this as well. This week in Wayne Westland is a weekly communication we put out to all staff. One of our executive directors, who's also a principal coach, Ms. Brohl, puts out what's called the Hub Now for Principals. And this is just an amazing resource. It's a one-stop shop for principals. And now principals are taking this concept and creating their own hubs for their buildings, the teachers, so they can, once again, they can get to something very quickly, click on it, and the resource is right there. It's absolutely amazing. One other thing before I turn it over to my colleague is October is National Principal Month. We have truly the best principals in the entire world. So I want to take a moment and I want to recognize them.
We love you, Miss Lee and Mrs. Shelley. You rock!
Thank you, Miss Eden, for being a good principal and setting a good example for the school. Thank you, Miss Xavier and Miss Eaton, for making this school a better place.
Thank you for being our principals. Adams loves you.
Thank you, Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mrs. Watson. Miss Watson opened doors for kids every morning. We love you, Miss Watson.
Thanks, Mrs. Watson, for being a great principal.
Mrs. Watson, I just love you so much.
I'm grateful for all the things that Miss Griffin had gave us, like tools and laptops.
I want to say thank you to Mr. Ross and Dr. Jenkins for helping us with everything, just helping us become good students.
Thank you, Mr. Ross and Dr. Jenkins. Thank you, Mr. Ross and Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Roster and Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Mrs. Pringle, for being our principal. You are
Nice, kind, special, the best. Nice.
Well, I like her. What's this thing? I like her because she's really nice and she made up the school rules.
And some of these friends are going to tell us what is so good about Mrs. Michaels. Cameron.
She gave out laptops.
Oh, she gives out laptops. Sky.
I like
What else does she have that's nice?
Thank you, Mrs. Michaels. We are your sparkles. I feel like Mrs. D because she is nice. I like Mrs. D because she's fun to play with and fun to take care of.
Thank you for everything, Miss T. You're the best. We love you.
We love you, Mr. Bassett.
Thank you for visiting our class each day.
Repeat after me. Miss Rogers. Miss Rogers. Not only cares about your education, but about you as an individual.
We like Loomis because he's funny.
And he helps us plan events. That's why we love Mr. Loomis.
Miss Foster, we'd like to thank you not only for taking care of this building, but for supporting the drama department so much. We appreciate you!
We appreciate you, Mr. Provost, Mr. Smith. We appreciate our principals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Provost and Mr. Smith.
Gracias, Señor Provost y Señor Smith.
Mr. Holman, I really like you, but you're the best principal ever.
Mr. Holman, thank you so much for joining our Roosevelt staff. We are so excited that you're here with us this year. And we would like to say a special
thank you.
I like Mr. Vicky
because she does a lot of stuff for us and just makes us very proud.
I love Miss Becky because she teaches our teachers how to train us to be leaders.
I love Mrs. Bricky as a principal because without her, this school couldn't be what it's like today.
I love Miss Bricky because she is nice and she likes to help my brother and sister sometimes.
I like Mr. Cox because he's nice and he makes school fun.
You're the best principal because you take care of the bullying at the school.
She puts music on for us at lunch.
Mr. Cox, you rock!
I really want to say to Miss Myers that she's a great principal and I'm glad someone hired her to be a principal. I love it when you say nice things to the kids in the hall and you send positive calls home.
And Miss Myers, good job for being a good principal this year.
Thank you, Mr. Weber and friends. I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too.
He is the best because he always seems excited to see me.
I love Miss Russo because she's really uplifting and supportive and she's inspiring to me and inspiring to the whole community. So shout out to Miss Russo.
I really like Mr. Weber. He's a really interesting guy, and he always has something nice to say, no matter what it be. Like I can say I got accepted to school prep, and he'd be like, great, yeah.
From Mira and Malia. Hi, Mr. Watson. I hope you're having a good day because it's gonna get better. You help us on our bad days and good days. You make them better. Whenever you're smiling, you make our frowns upside down. You make us feel like good and proud students. We're happy we're here and you are here. Thank you for being our principal.
Please give a round of applause for our principals. They are absolutely amazing. One last thing is that we encourage you, please join our advisory committees. The dates, I believe there's even a sheet outside. If not, we'll get them to you, listing all of the dates of the committees and when they're meeting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent of Climate, Culture, and Social-Emotional Learning, Dr. Townsel, who has been in the district since March and a former high school principal. So please welcome him to the stage.
Nice crowd. Clap it up again for the principals doing amazing work in our district. We'll jump right into it. So the mission of Climate, Culture, and Social-Emotional Learning is simple. We have a culture of excellence. How do we get there? One thing we like to share is that changing a culture and climate in the district is not an event, it's a process. Generally a 3 to 5 year process because it's like turning around the Titanic when you're trying to change culture, district, 10, 11,000 people, it's a process. When you hear of young people struggling or hear teachers talking about we have issues with regards to discipline in our district, how do we support that? One thing we bring is the 5 core competencies of social-emotional learning. Thinking of that, we're talking about how do we increase our young people's capacity in having better self-awareness, better self-management, social skills, better social awareness, and just making flat out good decisions to where they can perform better academically. Now, that is extremely difficult work on the school alone. That's why we found a way to reach our greater community through social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, sharing videos, expounding upon the different social-emotional competencies. In our district, structure is the #1 thing when having expectations for behavior. What is the expectation of our students when they go into the cafeteria? Walking down the hallways, getting on the bus, PBIS, you may have heard it before, it's the positive behavioral interventions and support. Having those different systems and structures in place ensure a climate and culture of excellence over time when implemented effectively by the leaders in our building as well as every teacher. Also, Dr. Holt often asks, what do we do when we struggle? Multi-tiered systems of support, finding an opportunity to not only support adults, but young people in every facet, in every category of their educational experience. For example, thinking of a young person who may be quiet in class, great behavior, probably very sociable with their friends in the cafeteria, but you look at the report card, they're probably struggling. They probably need interventional support or response to intervention, RTI support with regard to their academics. Also, you may have another student, smart as heck in the classroom, but behavior is off the chain, constantly talking, constantly getting in trouble, occasional fights, may need that social emotional support or behavioral support on that tiered system of support, RTI, response to intervention. An approach that we have in our district when dealing with discipline and we're dealing with high-level behaviors that could ultimately or potentially result into suspension, there's law by the state. Now, let me tell you where this comes from. Restorative justice or restorative practices. The Office of Juvenile Justice and the Office of Civil Rights wrote a joint letter to the United States Department of Education asking to please rethink discipline or please consider these steps prior to suspending students out of the classroom. Now, when you think of restorative justice or restorative practices or restorative circles, the goal is not to just not suspend. We're not looking to do that. One thing I know as a former high school principal is that suspensions delay the behavior. But when you have an opportunity to build community and building trust with the students and using alternatives to suspension, behaviors change over time and the suspension becomes one of the last alternatives when in regards to dealing with a student or giving them a consequence. So in 2017, August last year, the state of Michigan put into Michigan compiled law that you must consider restorative practices prior to suspending students in any district here in Michigan. And that's one thing that we're doing. We invested in culture and climate coaches to do a handful of things, not only to build community in all of our schools, or to become experts in restorative practices or experts in the 5 core competencies of social-emotional learning. We placed 1 in each of our buildings, 2 at the high school level, to become an extension of our counselors, social workers, educational psychologists, principals, assistant principals, support to teachers to have an impact on the behavior of our young people. Now, here's the deal. I believe as climate and culture goes, so goes curriculum and instruction. Now, prior to joining the Wayne Westland Community School District, I spent my entire educational career in the District of Columbia and the state of Massachusetts. While in the District of Columbia, we were one of the fastest improving urban school districts in the country, and we focused heavily on the social-emotional competencies and restorative practices. And what we saw on those NAEP scores was in our DC CAS was a rapid and quick increase in our student proficiency and advancement on those standardized tests by focusing on climate and culture. Now, as a high school principal in the state of Massachusetts, one thing Massachusetts do, they pride themselves on becoming, on their tag is leading the nation. When you talk about NAEP scores and where states rank educationally, Massachusetts is generally always number 1. Now, one thing we did was our school improvement plan. The first priority was focusing on climate and culture because we were one of the lowest performing high schools in the state of Massachusetts and one of 3 school districts taken over by the state called receivership. What we saw when we focused on climate, culture, social-emotional learning, restorative practices, is massive increase in academic achievement with regards to proficiency and advancement on our MCAS scores, similar to the M-STEP here. That's the approach that we have here now. Although we'd love to see a reduction in discipline or a reduction in suspensions or a reduction in incidents or fights, we don't stop there because again, as climate and culture goes, so goes curriculum and instruction. What we like to see over time and at the end of this academic year is as our incidents start to decrease, proficiency advancement start to increase on our M-STEP assessment. I want to show you a little bit of data to talk about what impact our climate and cultures are having right now. District-wide, the impact so far with the implementation of climate and culture coaches, or putting them in our school districts, comparing from August 2017 to October 2017, last year, to now, August top of the year to October year to date, what we saw was overall 27% decrease in overall incidents. Now, what you cannot hide is fights and assaults. That's apples to apples. We see a 34% decrease in fights and assaults in our buildings, in addition to 51% decrease in overall disruption in school, 63% decrease in overall failure to comply with school personnel. Now here's the deal. Change is a process. The hardest thing about growth is you don't feel the movement, but when you reflect, for example, I have a 6-year-old son. When I look at his picture from 2013, I'm like, that's not my same kid, because he grew so fast over time. He looked different when he's 6 compared to when he was 2 or 3 years old. That's what we're going to see in our data. So what I'm saying is fights are probably still going to happen. Disrespectful behavior probably will still happen. However, it's going to happen less frequently, and it's already happening less frequently. One thing I'd like to share as I get off of the climate and culture coaches is, please, if you're interested in learning more about social-emotional learning, restorative practices, response to intervention, PBIS, join an action team, join an advisory team, join some type of a committee, because here's the deal, it's hard work and we need all hands on deck. There's no point of hiding anything. We want to put it all out there because it is what it is. You only can get better when you see what it actually is, and that's what it is. Right now, how'd I go back? Right now, what I'm going to share with you is some of the videos that we use and put on our social media platforms, where a lot of our young people and their family members live outside of the school day. We know that it takes a village to do anything we got going on. And because we're a community school district, we have things in place that we can do in the 6, 7, or 8 hours that we have young people in school. But at some point they do go home. How can we still reach them? We have these videos that in some cases went viral on Facebook because parents are watching them over and over again and having conversations with the young kids about managing themselves or being aware of themselves or making good decisions and being socially aware. So what I'm going to show you is one of our videos that kind of took off on Facebook, and this was about self-management.
Hello, Wayne Westland community. Dr. Townsel here, Assistant Superintendent. Right now, I'm talking to you about self-management. Understand, look, self-management, that's like one of the best things you can do, especially if you're trying to get to another level. And right now, I need every last one of you to know that you're a champion. You are a champion because you can manage yourself. Self-management is really controlling yourself through adverse situations, really controlling yourself in multiple environments, being able to manage your emotions and be strict with yourself. You have to beat yourself. The best example I can give of self-management, listen to me, don't lose me. UFC, have you heard of the UFC? Look up this young lady by the name of Rose Namajunas. Rose Namajunas grew up in the streets of Milwaukee. This young lady was bullied. This young lady had issues at home. This young lady had all of the problems that come with coming from a low socioeconomic environment. Now, this young lady entered into the UFC, fighting her way up the ranks. And throughout her fight, she went on a reality show called The Ultimate Fighter. She was a runner-up and ultimately lost. Now, by losing, other women became champions in the strawweight division. In fact, one of the most dominant women champions was a lady by the name of Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Now, listen to it. This lady was dominant. Rose Namajunas wanted that championship so bad because she had a hard life. She's been fighting. She's disciplined herself. She's regulated her emotions. She suffered from mental illness. Now, she worked her way up the ranks to become a contender for the championship. Now, going into that championship, watch this. Every time they did a press conference, Joanna Jędrzejczyk bullied her. She said, "You're mentally unstable. You're going to break. Why don't you go back and cry?" This young lady was bullied in her childhood. and she continued to be bullied as she tried to become a champion in his league. Long story short, as she constantly was bullied in those press conferences, as she was constantly taunted, she managed her emotions. She listened to her coaches, and she listened to her parents and her family. And she ultimately got into that octagon and won the championship via KO. Now, it doesn't stop there. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, multiple UFC champion, she wanted to rematch. She said, no, that was a fluke. You really can't beat me. Don't forget, you're mentally unstable. Second fight, she won again. Two-time champion UFC. Check this out. You manage yourself. You're all champions. You gotta fight sometimes. Point blank period. You're gonna be hit with some things in life, and it's gonna be like, whoa, let me take a step back and really figure this whole thing out here. That's what Thug Rose Namajunas did, and she's a two-time UFC champion, and she's looking to defend her belt again. Now check me out. Self-management, that's a key to really going beyond. Don't forget, once you're aware and know who you are, you gotta manage yourself, manage those emotions, okay? Dr. Townsel here, Assistant Superintendent, understand, excellence is the expectation, and great futures start right here.
Thank you for that. One thing we're going to continue to do is reach out to some community members and some stakeholders that work in our district, and to continue to develop these videos and create this niche. I mean, this is a partnership between the school and the families, and whatever we can do to put real life information or relevant information in the hands of our young people, we believe this is a game changer. I promise you, our kids are on social media, they're on Snapchat, they're on Twitter, Vine, if Vine still exists, I don't know, but they're definitely on that Instagram and such. So we want to ensure that we're meeting them exactly where they are. Again, please join some of our collective efficacy action teams or advisory committees. We have student behavior when we specifically dive in, looking at discipline data and trying to get better with the data collection tool. And also climate and culture, focusing on PBIS, response to intervention, social-emotional learning. And last, activities and interactions. One thing we do know is that if young people are active in their school communities and enrichment opportunities or taking advantage of sport opportunities, they have more of a connection in the school community and they perform better on academic achievement. I want to be clear. I'm not just on dropping suspensions and getting incidents down. It means nothing if our kids are not reading and writing at a high level. Right now, I'm going to turn the microphone over to our Assistant Superintendent of Employee, Community, and Governmental Relations, Ms. Jill Simmons.
Hi, good evening. As Dr. Townsel just stated, I'm Jill Simmons. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Employee, Community, and Governmental Relations. We believe that student learning and growth is achieved through adult learning and growth. Our Employee Relations Department is formerly known as Human Resources. We have two major factors or two major things that we're focused on this year. The first being relationships. We identify, attract, and retain staff who are best suited to meet the needs of all of our students in the district. We are building and sustaining relationships with union leadership to support a collaborative work environment. Back in March of 2018, we developed the GEM Award, which is the Going the Extra Mile Award, so that we can recognize staff for their contributions. This is done through a Google Doc. Any staff member can be recognized for their efforts and receive recognition and a reward. And we are providing support, appropriate support to staff to grow professionally. The next major area of focus is staff attraction and retention. As many of you may have heard, there is a teacher shortage not only in Michigan, but throughout the country. So we have taken various steps to address this shortage. The first is we have developed a staff attrition, attraction, and retention committee. This includes staff members throughout the district in a variety of positions who come together and meet 4 times a year to help kind of brainstorm and get ideas on how to address our need. And we also have an advisory team. And this is made up of community members who are welcome to come and join and also provide input. If you are interested in being a part of this advisory team, you can go to our website and fill out a form online, or I believe we had forms out in the lobby this evening that you can fill out. We are currently in the process, I know this says we recently partnered with, but we hit a little lag, so we are in the process of partnering with Wayne Reese's application consortium, We are currently utilizing AppleTrack, but we are a standalone operation, meaning candidates have to come and apply directly through Wayne Westland's website, where other districts in Wayne County are all linked under Wayne Reese's consortium, and so it's kind of a one-stop job shop for candidates, and they're not necessarily thinking to then go look for other districts that in Wayne County that aren't part of that consortium. So we're working to link to that, and we're just in the process of making it happen right now through AppleTrack. We recently hosted an on-site job fair here at the board office last week. We were able to meet with 47 viable candidates for various support staff positions throughout the district. So we are also looking to fill paraprofessional, food service, custodial, secretary positions, as well as teaching and ancillary staff positions. So we are currently in the process of following up on those candidates and getting them placed into the appropriate positions throughout the district. We have redesigned our recruitment website, and we're sharing that information out with more schools than we have in the past, and that's our goal going forward into the December grads that will be coming out, and then again in the spring, around April for those grads. In 2018-19, we just developed additional goals that include expanding our recruitment efforts. For years, we've been going to the college job fairs throughout Michigan, seeing a ton of other states coming to take teachers out of Michigan to other states where there were shortages. So why not go to other states and try to draw their teaching candidates into the state of Michigan? So we're going to start local states, including Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, to start building partnerships there, as well as other schools throughout the state of Michigan that we haven't normally partnered with, such as Grand Valley, Ferris State, just kind of see what other opportunities are out there. And then also work with those schools to build our student teacher pools, because we find if we can get them in and get them into our classrooms, they love it here and they want to stay. So we often have a lot of success hiring student teachers into the district. So we're looking to grow those programs. And then we have contract negotiations, which are scheduled to begin in January 2019. Communications. So we're not only sharing information through the communications department, but we're working to build relationships in the school and throughout the community. And effective two-way communication helps with a number of issues. It improves pride and morale within the organization and the community. It helps negate inaccuracies and rumors as they arise. And it helps to build trust. Wayne Wesleyan Schools is an important part of our community, and we want to reach out and be involved and openly communicate and transparently communicate with our stakeholders. We have increased our communication efforts over the past year. One example is the State of the District that we're hosting now. This is our second event. We've hosted coffee with the superintendent at various dates, locations, and times where community members can come in and speak with Dr. Holt on any topics or topics which are important to them at the time. And it's just a way to easily access and have a conversation with the superintendent in small groups. We've hosted ministerial breakfast as well as realtor luncheons. We want our realtors to have accurate information about our district, so we've provided them with appropriate information and packets to share with families looking to move into Wayne Westland District. And again, to help negate some of the rumors and just give actual information. We have enhanced our website. We have a safety website. We now have a visual directory with the number of changes that have taken place throughout the district, and we are now fully in ADA compliance. We are active participants on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As many of you may know, I believe we're streaming live on Facebook right now. We've hosted various community forums, most recently on school safety, and then another forum that was a separate forum for parents, and then students were in another room on appropriate use of social media and safety issues related to that. Many of you have probably had an opportunity to attend a bond meeting presentation. We've been active in the community over the past month or so, getting the word out on the bond. We have created the Communications, Marketing, and Public Relations Advisory Team. Again, you can visit our website or pick up a form in the lobby if you're interested in joining that team. And then we have created the This Week in Wayne Westland, which is a publication shared via email with all staff on a weekly basis. And this contains pertinent information on events happening in the district, placements of administrative staff, just anything that staff needs to know. It's kind of a one stop for that information. Family and community engagement. This is a newly developed area. We got it up and running, I'd say, in the early spring of last school year, because it takes a village. And our schools have asked for the added support, and we need our community back in our schools. We are Wayne Westland Community Schools. And in an effort to bring the community back in, we've set goals to identify partners, 3 partners for each school site. We are looking for a nonprofit, a financial institution, and a faith-based organization to contribute and volunteer in each of our schools. So we have a growing at-risk population here in Wayne Westland. We have 3 shelters within the district: Samaritas, First Step, and Lighthouse Mission. Our executive cabinet team had the opportunity yesterday to visit First Step. What an amazing program they have going there right here in our community to help support our families. We have the 3rd highest homeless population in Wayne County. We serve nearly 300 students in the 2017-2018 school year. Prior to 2018, we had 1 family resource center to serve 11,000 students and 2,000 staff. So during the summer of 2018, with the development of this Family and Community Engagement Division, we've expanded our family resource centers to now include 3 centers. We kept the original center at Adams Upper Elementary School, and then we've also expanded to 2 corners of the district, Taft Galloway Elementary School and John Glenn High School right here. So they are working to support faced with building and sustaining partnerships throughout the district. Additional community resources that have recently been added are parent coordinator positions have been created at every school site. A number of these positions are already filled, and they'll help oversee and guide the work from our volunteer programs and the partnerships that we're developing. We've extended the Champions Before and After School to all sites. And not only have we expanded the programs, but we've reduced the rates, negotiated reduced rates, so that our families can afford this care for their student or for their family or their children. Eastern Michigan University Bright Futures After School program expanded from 7 of our school sites to 14 this school year, so that's amazing news as well. And then in this division, we also have an advisory board. This is the Health and Welfare Advisory Board that includes diverse representation from throughout the community, and they have served our families for over 30 years. Now I'm happy to introduce Stacy White. She is our Assistant Superintendent of Business Maintenance and Instructional Operations.
Good evening. The Business Maintenance and Instructional Operation Department is committed to the principles of customer service, and we're devoted to providing a responsible, safe environment that is conducive for student learning and excel in their education. We strive to provide reliability and integrity in the financial operations, comprehensive and ongoing maintenance, safe transportation to and from school, and healthy meal options to all of our students. The finance department is focused on 2 strategies this year: zero-based budgeting and academic return on investment. Zero-based budgeting is a method in budgeting which all expenses are analyzed and justified for each new period. The process of zero-based budgeting starts with a zero base, and every function of the district is analyzed for its needs and costs. Budgets are then built on the needs of the district for the upcoming periods. Most districts base their cost management approach on setting budgets based on what happened last year. It's time to reimagine cost structure and base our new cost structures on the new environment and not the old environment. Basing resource demands on what's needed now rather than on the performance of last year frees up capital that can be used in ways that will increase and have the most impact on student achievement. In order to identify these new ways that will impact student achievement, we will be utilizing a strategy called academic return on investment. Academic return on investment is a tool used to emphasize cost effectiveness in budget decisions, and it helps decision makers make more informed choices between different programs and uses of resources. The key benefits of academic return on investment is that it provides a clear measurement of services that we've been using and their intended impact for a reasonable cost. More fundamentally, academic return of investment evaluates expenditures in terms of whether or not tax dollars are being used most effectively. The maintenance and instructional operations team is focused on fixing issues around the district that have become an immediate concern. Issues such as spidering of the asphalt and holes in the catch basins across all district parking lots are becoming a safety issue and are being repaired. Building transformers with rusted out bottoms, which could cause school closures, are being addressed. Handicap ramps with wall and casework peelings are being replaced to ensure children are safe from harm. Parking lot lighting fixtures are being replaced with LED lighting that has 10-year warranties and absolutely no maintenance costs. The transportation team is focused on improving safety in all areas. Policies, procedures, guidelines, and professional development staff are being closely analyzed, improved, and updated to ensure that we are providing the safest transportation to the over 8,000 students that we transport to and from school every single day. The food service team has been hard at work implementing the Community Eligibility Provision, or CEP. CEP provides free breakfast and free lunch to all of our students. CEP also eliminates overt identification issues for students, improves nutrition, reduces paperwork at district level, simplifies counting and claiming, and increases breakfast and lunch participation. The CEP program provides district reimbursement for all student meals served from the state of Michigan, and it has no cost to the district whatsoever. Next up, please welcome a 42-year-old veteran of the district and a Wayne Memorial alumni, Mrs. Cheryl Watson.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Cheryl Watson, and I am Dr. Holt's assistant, and I am also a member of her executive cabinet. Myself and the 5 administrative assistants, the lovely ladies you see the photo up here, support the members of Dr. Holt's executive cabinet, her assistant superintendents. Our mission statement, I won't read it because you guys are probably tired, but I want you to remember that excellence is the expectation in absolutely everything that we do for our students. The word secretary comes from the Latin word secretum, which means secret, and can be traced back to the 6th century. By the 12th century, the title of secretary referred to positions that handled sensitive tasks. Think about that for a minute as you think about the secretaries in our district. Not only do we keep confidential information, we are the frontline team and behind-the-scenes managers of school offices and libraries. We set up meetings, order supplies, help with zippers that are stuck, help look for lost library books, and keep ice packs handy. We know where to find it, we know how to get it, and we know how to answer it, and usually it's all at the same time. One of the many things that Dr. Holt researched upon her arrival in the district a year ago was a review of staff data. One of the things that she discovered was the fact that our secretaries had the most consistent knowledge of the district, an extreme amount of institutional knowledge, and the least amount of turnover. Of the 6 administrative assistants and the 79 secretaries who work in our district, 51 of us have served our district students and families for 10 years or more. Cindy Byer, who is the secretary at John Glenn, has been with the district for 48 years, and Joyce Brooks, the secretary at Walker Winter, has been with the district for 31 years. Most of us were raised and still live in the district and now have or had children and grandchildren attend our schools. Part of Dr. Holt's research also found that in the past, there has not been a formal support system in place for this frontline team. So in order to make us even a stronger workforce and further develop our skills, the administrative assistants have developed a 5-year plan. This includes formal training opportunities for all secretaries, in-services, restorative practice training, and ongoing support. The 5-year plan, with input from the secretaries, will guide the development of a professional learning calendar. This year, a back-to-school in-service was offered to present new procedures and provide updates to all secretaries. Google training was also offered to any secretary who wanted to learn something new, brush up on their skill set, or further their knowledge. I'm happy to share that a number of secretaries have taken advantage of this training. In addition to these opportunities, a student registration in-service is scheduled for early November. This will ensure a smooth process for new families who need to register their children for school. A big project that we are working on is to develop, coordinate, and guide the writing of an administrative procedures handbook. This handbook, when completed, will describe the guidelines for common communication and the procedures for how to complete specific tasks in an efficient and common manner across the district. Most importantly, each and every district secretary is proud, and rightly so, of the work that we do each and every day and the support that we provide. We believe, truly believe in our district, our students, and their families. Thank you. Now back to Dr. Holt.
Thank you. What about that team? Isn't that an amazing team? Isn't that an amazing team of people? So now I'm scheduled actually to give you the 15-minute bond presentation. I'm looking around the room, and most of you have seen the hour-long bond presentation. And so I'm not going to do the entire presentation, but I do want to take the opportunity, especially for our Facebook Live audience, to share the video from the School Finance Collaborative that really talks about funding in the state of Michigan for education, because this is an issue for all of us right now.
So much has changed in the last 25 years. Encyclopedias have given way to Google, rotary phones to the iPhone. 25 years ago, flat-screen TVs and self-driving cars seemed like science fiction. Yet today, we still fund Michigan schools the same way we did 25 years ago. Michigan's spending per pupil and student performance have dropped dramatically in the last decade. A new approach is needed that prepares all students for college and the 21st century workforce, and one that recognizes all students are unique and have a wide range of learning needs. The School Finance Research Collaborative has completed Michigan's first comprehensive school adequacy study to determine what it truly costs to educate a child. The collaborative is a diverse bipartisan group of business leaders and education experts, from Metro Detroit to the UP, who agree we must change how Michigan schools are funded. The collaborative study was recently completed by the nation's top 2 school finance research firms, with input from nearly 300 Michigan educators. The study determined that per pupil funding should be increased to provide all students with a high-quality education that helps them achieve and succeed. The study found that it costs a minimum $9,590 to educate a child in Michigan, regardless of location, income, learning challenges, or other circumstances. That amount does not include transportation, food service, or capital costs, and only includes pension costs at 4.6% of wages. The report recommends that brick-and-mortar charter schools and traditional public schools should be funded at the same level, and it quantified additional costs for special education, English language learners, and students living in poverty. The report concluded that 10% additional to the base cost should be provided per career and technical education enrolled student. It found it costs $14,155 to educate a preschool student. The report also determined that funding must be adjusted based on district size, with smaller districts receiving increased funding. And the report concluded that districts in geographically isolated areas and student transportation costs should be addressed so that the unique needs of every district or charter school are fully funded. Rather than a cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all approach to school funding, Michigan's school finance system needs to take a more research-based, individualized approach. Michigan policymakers now have a roadmap to provide adequate and equitable funding for a pre-K-12 education that prepares all students for bright futures. So while Michigan currently ranks at the bottom in student performance, this new study charts a bold course to change that. So much has changed in the last 25 years, and now it's time for the way we fund schools to embrace the future and change as well. To read the study or learn more, visit www.fundmischools.org.
So what I would ask that each of you do is if you have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, an Instagram account, or any of those other little accounts that I do not know about, please put this video out there, not just for Wayne Westland, but for education in general for the state of Michigan. We have got to be advocates for the work that is ahead of us. We know that our schools are not adequately funded, and that's what the adequacy study was here to do. And so we do have a bond, a ballot proposal on the November 6th bond. I'm not going to go through all of this. Just know that it's $158 million. What does that mean for us as community members? At the end of the day, we are talking about, this is all the information around it. Feel free to come to one of the many presentations. It's for a lot of our infrastructure. It's for facilities. It's to make sure that we have what we need in order to do the work that we have to do for our students. At the end of the day, what is this costing us? It's $7.33 for every $100,000 of your home. For a $100,000 house, that's about $88 a year. Okay, it's about $88 a year. I want to be very clear with every one of you and the community when it comes to this bond. In 2016, we were paying 5.56 mils. With this new bond, we will be paying 4.48 mils. It is not in addition to, it is a continuation of. This is not 5.56 plus 4.48, not that. It is going from what it was in 2016, which was 5.56, to 4.48 moving forward. I want to point out that we are not alone in doing this work to move forward. We have many partners, many people, many folks that are in this with us, and we know that. And so I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge those in the room. I want to start off with Representative Joelle Jones. Thank you for being here. It's right here. I also want to acknowledge our mayors, Mayor Bill Wild from City of Westland, was amazing partner with us, in addition to Mayor Susan Rowe from the City of Wayne in the final months of her term. And while he's not here, I will also acknowledge Mayor Byron Nolan. These three have been absolutely wonderful in working with us and really helping me understand the history and the intricacies of working in a community like ours, and I cannot thank you enough. I also have to acknowledge from the City of Wayne, Mr. John Racy, who is our future mayor of the City of Wayne. So we're going to continue those monthly lunches and talk about what's going on. Also, he's having a birthday today. Councilman, goodness, I almost called you John Landau. Michael Landau, happy birthday. Thank you for being here. I also have to acknowledge our council president, Mr. Jim Gombat, and his wife are here. And Councilman Hart had to leave, but his wife, Mrs. Linda Hart, is here. And we also have members of the Westland Democratic Club that are here. I saw the library board was here. I saw Hype, who walked in somewhere. There he is. We have representatives from Eastern Michigan University here with us today. Thank you, Dr. Malinoff. I think I see you back there. We have Bright Futures champions. We have our union representatives. We have Mr. Don Harris, who is our WWEA president, who is right here in the bright red. Can't miss him. We also have, I believe I saw Ann Heineke back there. And I'm not sure if I missed anybody. Yes, I did. I missed one of our, I always get it confused. It's WABA, which is the Wayne Westside Association of Building Administrators. We have our presidents, Mr. Kevin Weber and Mr. Shelley Watson, that are here. And we also have our WACOA president, Mr. Charlie Holman. Can we give it up for all of our principals and administrators? Last but definitely not least, I want to acknowledge our partners from Wayne RESA. Mrs. Alyn Moore is here representing Wayne RESA. And I'm not sure if I saw Steve Curry from MDE, but usually he is here. The partnership agreement truly is a partnership. I was forewarned very, very clearly around, don't trust them, But when I tell you they have been partners with us in this work, showing up weekly, sometimes we are calling them on cell phones, and sometimes we're going, hey, this situation, we have a unique Wayne Westland situation. And guess what? We need a unique Wayne Westland solution. And they are working side by side with us as we are on this journey. And so I cannot thank each and every one of you enough. If I did not recognize someone, please blame my brain and not my heart. And I can barely see. So I'm really trying to go. I'm literally going, okay, I think I see. And we have several members of our leadership council here tonight. So we know we are not alone, but we still need more help. It truly does take a village. So what can you do to help? Because I have that question come at me constantly. Okay, so what can I do? There's 5 things I'll tell you can do. 1 is be and stay involved. We've all talked about the action committees. We need you here. Advisory committees are only 4 to 5 times a year. 4 to 5 times a year. Just come and give us your opinions. All those opinions that you put out on Facebook, bring them in the meeting. Just saying, we cannot do anything with the Facebook comments. We can do something if we are involved in collaborative dialogue as a team and as a unit. We can actually make that change happen. And folks that are involved are actually seeing that, wait a minute, you're listening. Yes, we asked, we're gonna listen. So coming to our schools is a great option. Number 2, be positive and proactive. You'll hear me say, and this is not my quote, it's actually a quote from a man who has gone on to be with the Lord. His name was Jerry Gore. And he always used to say, spread good news like it's bad news. Spread good news like it's bad news. You don't believe me? Check how many likes and shares you get on a good news comment versus a bad news comment, right? And so we want to spread good news here in Wayne Westland. Good news and celebrations, send them out everywhere. But if you have questions and concerns, we're asking that you come in, that you call, that you send a message, you let us know. So give us the opportunity to address whatever concern it is. Because chances are we just don't know about it. Or there's so much, as you can see, that's going on, we're trying to fit that in, or it's in the works. It's just hasn't quite hit the top of the pipeline yet. And please be reminded, community, our children are watching. It is very hard to punish or address negative behavior in children that the parents were doing the night before. Just saying, it's a little bit challenging when we say, hey, be kind on social media. And then you look at the comments or whatever of what the family is doing. It's a very hard conversation. So just remember the kids are watching. The other thing that we ask as a community, I ask this on behalf of my staff and my team, please remember to be considerate. Each and every one of the folks up here, each and every one of the folks in this audience, each and every one of my teachers, my administrators, my bus drivers, my food service workers, my secretaries, my paraprofessionals, each and every one of them have dedicated their careers to serving students and their families. They get up every morning to go and do something for somebody else. And we already talked about the wage differential between us and other districts. So the folks that are here in Wayne Westland, believe you me, I love you and I appreciate you, and I ask that the community do the same. Be patient with us, be considerate, and always assume positive intention. Oftentimes when we get the concerns come at us, and we know that dealing with children is emotional. I have 7 of them, I get it, believe me. And a G baby, but we won't go there. But assume positive intentions. Assume that maybe somebody doesn't know. Assume that, maybe this is something that they're hearing for the first time, and perhaps we'll get a better result. Number 4, like I said, be patient. We have to be patient with ourselves. The wonderful thing about the great team that I have is that they are amazing overachievers. The difficult thing about the team that I have is they're amazing overachievers who are not patient at all with themselves. Believe me, you want it done fast, they want it done 2 times faster. I promise you that. So I'm telling everyone, be patient with yourselves. We didn't get in this situation overnight. We did not get into this place that we're in that you're all kind of going, all right, how are we going to move out of? We didn't get here overnight. It's not going to be overnight when we get out of it. It's going to be 3 to 5 years before we will see actual significant results that we are proud of. 3 to 5 years. Be patient with one another, and also be patient with our community. Oftentimes when our parents or our community members are calling us, they're very upset. They're waiting to the last minute to call us, and then, it blows up. Just be patient and remember that we're all people. Finally, is to believe. Everything that we do starts with a belief. Everything we do. Our theme this year is We Believe Students Achieve. We have got to believe as a community that we can do this. We know we have a long road ahead. Yeah, I saw that Detroit was growing faster than us. I saw it. I see it. We can do this. We can do this together. So believe in our students, believe in our educators, believe in our schools, believe in our community. Everything we do starts with a belief. Many of you have noticed, if you've looked at any pictures on Facebook, that over the last 2 years, I've lost about 150 pounds. Geez Louise. I know, right? It didn't happen overnight, and it started with a belief. I can do something different. I can do something different. I don't have to die at 70 like my daddy did. I can do something different. I thought it here, and then it came off. What do we think is happening up here? What are we thinking about? Are we thinking that we can do this? Or are we waiting for it to fail? Are we thinking that, you know what, maybe this is possible? Are we going, yeah, I'm waiting for this to pass, see what else is gonna happen? Believe. So how do we respond when people struggle? The first thing is we believe that they can make the shifts and the changes necessary to improve. You have to start to believe that you can. And is it gonna hurt? Yes. Is it gonna be hard? Yes. Are you gonna wanna cry and quit? Yes. Yes. You're gonna want to. Are you gonna have moments where you're gonna wanna scream and just, well, goodness, I've tried everything and the kids still aren't doing exactly what I've asked them to do. Yes, it's going to happen. My goodness, I've called the transportation office 3 times and the bus is still, yes, it's gonna happen. Believe that we can make the changes. Support people on their journey towards improvement. I do not believe in throwaway people. I do not believe in throwaway people. We have to support people and walk hand in hand with them as we move forward. And I expect that not only of myself, I expect it of every single person in this district. We have to help each other and we have to help our kids. Finally, pick them up when they fall forward. It's going to happen. And one of the things I always say is fall forward. Why fall forward? Have you ever tried falling backwards? You know, like a little turtle? Doesn't work too well. Fall forward. You can pick yourself up and it's easier for someone else to help pick you up as well. And finally, we celebrate the successes. No matter how big, no matter how small, we celebrate them. So I just ask you as a community, as we finish out this State of the District, do not stop believing in Wayne Westland. When we believe, students achieve. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Have a great evening. That's it. Go home. Come on. Oh, I gotta turn this off.